His phone screen lit up for the 100th time that night. Minjun Park didn't even glance at it. Just let it buzz against the marble table in his private office overlooking Manhattan's glittering skyline. The city sprawled beneath him like a kingdom he'd conquered with blood and silence. 100 messages. Business partners begging for meetings. Politicians offering alliances. Women he'd never met sending photos and promises. His father's associates pushing marriage proposals like they were stock options. Delete. Ignore. Silence. Every single one. The heir to the Park crime syndicate didn't answer to anyone, didn't bend to pressure, didn't respond to demands disguised as requests. Power wasn't about saying yes. It was about the luxury of saying nothing at all. His right-hand man Owen stood by the door, tablet in hand, trying not to look concerned and failing. "Sir, your father called again. He wants an answer about the Kim family arrangement by morning." Minjun's jaw tightened, the only sign of emotion on his perfectly controlled face. The Kim arrangement. Code for selling himself to some crime princess who'd been groomed since birth to marry power and produce heirs. His father had been pushing it for 3 years. Every conversation a new variation of the same command. Stop being selfish. Think of the family. This is your duty. Duty. The word tasted like ash. "Tell him what I always tell him," Minjun said, his voice carrying that soft Korean accent that made people underestimate him right before he destroyed them. Owen nodded and left, and Minjun was alone again with the silence he'd built around himself like armor. At 29, he'd inherited an empire at 21 when his older brother died in a deal gone wrong. 8 years of turning his father's old-school operation into something sleeker, deadlier, untouchable. 8 years of being alone at the top because everyone wanted something from him, and trust was a luxury men like him couldn't afford. His phone buzzed again. 101. He picked it up this time, ready to block whatever number had the audacity to keep trying, and froze. Unknown number. But the message was just 2 words. Help. Please. Most people would have ignored it. Probably a wrong number. A scam. Someone's desperate plea that had nothing to do with him. But Minjun had built his empire on information, on knowing things other people missed, and something about those 2 words made him pause. He shouldn't answer. Shouldn't engage. Should delete it like all the others and go back to the contracts waiting on his desk. But his thumb hovered over the screen, and before he could talk himself out of it, he typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, wrong person. "Sorry to bother you, sir." Sir. Not Mr. Park. Not his name. Not some attempt to use familiarity as manipulation. Just sir. Simple. Respectful. Real. And for the first time in 8 years, Minjun Park answered a message from a stranger. "You said help. What's wrong?" The dots appeared again, longer this time, like whoever was on the other end was debating whether to trust him. "Finally, my mom's in the hospital. I'm trying to get there, but I'm stuck at work and I thought I was texting my friend Maya, but I guess I got a number wrong. I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this." Something shifted in his chest. Something he thought had died the night his brother bled out in his arms. "Which hospital?" Minjun typed. "Why?" came the response, and he could feel the suspicion through the screen, the smart wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust easy offers. "Because I can help," he wrote back. Another long pause. Then, "Sir, I don't know who you are, but I don't need charity. I just need to get through my shift and get to Columbia Presbyterian. Thank you anyway." She was turning him down. Politely. Firmly. This stranger who'd accidentally texted the most dangerous man in New York was telling him no. And Minjun Park found himself smiling for the first time in months. "What's your name?" he typed. No response this time. She was done with the conversation, probably embarrassed, definitely not interested in continuing this accidental connection. Smart girl. She had no idea how smart. Because Minjun was already texting Owen. Find out who this number belongs to. And find out which Columbia Presbyterian patient has a daughter working tonight. Owen's response was immediate. "Sir?" "Just do it," Minjun typed back, then stared at his phone screen, at those simple messages from a stranger who'd called him sir, like he was just a person, not a weapon. He should let it go. Should focus on the empire, the deals, the responsibilities crushing him from all sides. But that little word, sir, kept echoing in his head. And Minjun Park, who'd ignored 100 messages without a second thought, found himself waiting for message 102. But she didn't text again, and that made him want to find her even more. Her name was Zara Thompson, and she was halfway through the worst shift of her life when her phone buzzed with a response she wasn't expecting. She stared at the message. Which hospital? From the stranger she'd accidentally texted, and something about it felt wrong. Too eager. Too interested. Men who offered help at midnight always wanted something in return. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. So she'd politely declined, shoved her phone back in her apron pocket, and returned to the chaos of Meridian, the upscale restaurant in Manhattan where she'd been waiting tables for 6 months while juggling 2 other jobs and night classes. Her mother's hospital bills weren't going to pay themselves. But the shift dragged on like torture. Every minute an eternity when all she wanted was to be at Columbia Presbyterian holding her mom's hand. The restaurant was packed with Manhattan's elite, the kind of people who treated servers like furniture and tipped based on how much attention you paid to their egos. She smiled through it all, professional mask firmly in place. Even when Table 7's date grabbed her wrist and suggested she'd make more money doing private service. She extracted herself smoothly, added nothing to his bill, and fantasized about pouring wine over his expensive suit. "Girl, you okay?" Maya whispered, passing her in the corridor between the kitchen and dining room. Maya had been her lifeline since she'd started here, the only person who felt like a real friend in this plastic city. "My mom collapsed," Zara said, voice tight. "They took her to Columbia Presbyterian. I need to finish this shift or Richard will fire me, but I don't know if I can." "Go," Maya said immediately. "I'll cover your tables. Tell Richard I'm handling it." "Maya, you can't." "Zara, go to your mom. I've got this." Zara wanted to cry but didn't have time. She grabbed her coat, raced out the back in trance into the cold Manhattan night, and made it 3 blocks before realizing she'd left her wallet in her locker. No wallet meant no subway card. No subway card meant walking 40 blocks to the hospital. She stood there on the empty street, breath fogging in the November air, trying not to scream. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. "Did you get to the hospital?" The stranger texted. She should ignore it. Should delete his number and forget this weird midnight interaction. But something about his messages felt different from the usual creeps. More careful. More genuine. "I'm walking there now," she typed back before she could stop herself. "It's 40 blocks, but I'll make it." "Walking?" "It's 1 a.m. I left my wallet at work," Zara admitted, then immediately regretted sharing that. Now he knew she was broke and alone on dark streets. Perfect victim material. "Stay where you are," came the response. "What?" "No. Sir, I don't know you." "I'm not. There's a car 2 blocks from your location," he interrupted. "Black sedan. Driver's name is Owen. He'll take you to Columbia Presbyterian. No charge. No strings." Zara's heart hammered. This was insane. This was how people ended up on true crime podcasts. "How do you know where I am?" she typed, fear spiking. "I traced your number. I know that sounds bad, but I promise I'm trying to help, not hurt you. Your mother needs you. Let me make that happen." This was crazy. Accepting rides from strangers who traced your phone number was horror movie stupid. But even as her brain screamed warnings, Zara looked up and saw headlights approaching. A sleek black sedan pulled up beside her, window rolling down to reveal a professional-looking man in his 40s, expression kind and worried. "Miss Thompson," he said gently. "My name is Owen. My employer asked me to drive you to see your mother. No payment required. No expectations. Just a ride." Zara stared at him, at the warm car, at the hospital 40 freezing blocks away. Every instinct said run. But her mom was alone and scared, and Zara was so tired of fighting every battle by herself. "Why would your employer help a complete stranger?" she asked, hand on her pepper spray. Owen smiled. "Because you called him sir, and apparently that mattered to him." The answer was so weird, so specific, that it felt true. Zara made a decision that would change her life. She got in the car. The interior was leather and warmth, classical music playing softly from hidden speakers. Owen drove smoothly, professionally, asking nothing, offering everything. They made it to Columbia Presbyterian in 12 minutes. "Thank you," Zara said as she opened the door, voice thick with emotion. "Tell your employer I said thank you too. I don't know why he helped me, but it mattered." "I'll tell him," Owen said. "And Miss Thompson, he asked me to leave you this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was $500 in cash and a note in sharp, elegant handwriting. "For whatever you need tonight. You don't owe me anything. But if you want to say thank you properly, text me when your mother is okay." MJ, Zara stood on the hospital steps, holding money that would cover her mom's copay and this week's rent, sent by a stranger who'd traced her phone and sent a car and asked for nothing except a text message. She should be terrified, should throw the money away and block his number and never think about this again. But instead, she tucked the envelope carefully into her coat pocket, walked into the hospital, and found her mother stable, awake, and asking for her daughter. And 6 hours later, when the sun rose over Manhattan and her mother was sleeping peacefully, Zara pulled out her phone and typed, "She's okay. Thank you doesn't feel like enough, but thank you, MJ. You saved us tonight. I don't know why you helped, but I won't forget it. Zara." She hit send before she could overthink it. The response came in seconds. "I'm glad she's okay. And I helped because someone once told me that power means nothing if you don't use it for the people who need it most. Coffee sometime. Just coffee. Nothing more. Unless you want there to be more." Zara stared at the message, at this stranger who'd turned her worst night into something almost magical, and made a decision that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. "Just coffee," she typed back. "And I picked the place." "Deal," came the response. And Zara Thompson had no idea she'd just agreed to coffee with the man who ruled Manhattan's underworld. But she was about to find out. The coffee shop Zara chose was deliberately unglamorous. A tiny Brooklyn spot called Roses where the coffee was strong, the pastries were day-old, and nobody in expensive suits ever ventured this far from Manhattan's polished core. She'd picked it on purpose, testing him, seeing if this MJ would show up in her world or demand she come to his. She was betting on the latter. She was wrong. He walked in at exactly 10 a.m., and the entire shop seemed to inhale. Minjun Park in worn jeans and a black leather jacket, looking nothing like a crime lord and everything like a dangerously beautiful man who'd walked straight out of some forbidden fantasy. He spotted her immediately, and his smile was soft, real, nothing practiced about it. "Zara," he said, sliding into the booth across from her, and the way he said her name with that accent made her stomach flip. "MJ," she responded, keeping her voice steady. "Though I'm guessing that's not your full name." "Minjun," he admitted. "But my friends call me MJ. You can call me whatever feels right." "Sir," Zara suggested, and watched his eyes darken with something that definitely wasn't friendly. "Careful," Minjun said softly. "That word does things to me." Heat flooded her face. She hadn't meant it that way. Or had she? "How's your mother?" he asked, letting her off the hook, and Zara grabbed the subject change gratefully. "Better. The doctors say it was exhaustion and stress, but she needs to rest, which is hard when she's working 2 jobs to keep our apartment." She watched his face, looking for the moment he'd judge her, dismiss her, decide she was too much work. It never came. "That must be terrifying," Minjun said simply. "Watching someone you love hurt themselves, trying to survive." "You say that like you've experienced it," Zara observed. Something flickered in his eyes. "My brother worked himself to death trying to prove he was worthy of our father's empire. I watched him burn out from the inside and couldn't stop it." The pain in his voice was raw, real. This wasn't rehearsed. This was a wound that hadn't healed. "I'm sorry," Zara said softly, and on impulse, reached across the table to touch his hand. The contact was electric. Minjun's fingers closed around hers immediately, his touch warm and careful, like she was something precious. "You're the first person who said that and meant it," he murmured. "Everyone else just talks about what a great leader he would have been. Nobody talks about how lonely he was." They sat there, hands linked across a coffee shop table in Brooklyn, 2 people from completely different worlds finding something that felt like recognition. Tell me about you, Min Jun said finally. The real you, not the polite version you give to customers. So Zara did. Told him about growing up in California with dreams bigger than her circumstances. About moving to New York to escape poverty and finding it waiting for her here too. About night classes for a teaching degree she might never finish. About working at Meridian and 2 other jobs and still barely surviving. About feeling invisible in a city full of people who looked through her like she was made of glass. Min Jun listened to every word, really listened, his dark eyes never leaving her face. And when she finished, he said something that stopped her heart. You're the furthest thing from invisible I've ever seen. You're like fire, Zara. Bright and fierce and impossible to ignore. You don't know me, Zara protested weakly. I know you texted a stranger for help and then turned down his money until you had no choice. I know you worked 3 jobs to take care of your mother. I know you picked this coffee shop to test me, see if I'd show up in your world instead of demanding you come to mine. I know you're strong and careful and smart enough to be suspicious of men who offer help. He leaned forward. And I know that when you called me sir in that text, something in me woke up that's been dead for 8 years. Zara's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to know you, Min Jun. Said simply. All of you. I want more than coffee. I want dinners and conversations and the chance to show you that not every man with power is looking to take from you. You don't even know what you're asking for, Zara whispered. I come with complications, MJ. Debt and responsibility and a life that's falling apart faster than I can fix it. And I come with danger, Min Jun countered. A world where people die for looking at me wrong. A father who wants to sell me like property. An empire built on blood. If we're comparing complications, I think I win. They stared at each other, the truth sitting between them like a living thing. What do you do exactly? Zara asked carefully. That gives you the power to send cars and envelopes of cash? Min Jun's expression turned guarded. Do you really want to know? Yes, Zara said, because she'd never been good at lying to herself. I run my family's business, Min Jun said slowly. Import, export, investments. The legal face of an organization that operates mostly in shadows. I'm not a good man, Zara. I've done things that would make you run from this table. But I'm trying to be better than what I inherited. It should have scared her. Should have sent her running. But Zara had grown up around powerful men, had learned to read the difference between those who hurt for pleasure and those who hurt because their world demanded it. Min Jun was the latter. Dangerous, yes, but not cruel. One rule, Zara said firmly. You're honest with me. Always. No games, no manipulation, no using your power to back me into corners. I'm choosing this with full knowledge, or I'm not choosing it at all. Min Jun's smile was beautiful and devastating. Deal. And my rule. You tell me when I scare you. When it's too much. When you need space. Because Zara, I will want everything. And you need to be able to tell me no. Like I did with the money. Zara challenged. Exactly like that, Min Jun agreed. You're the first person in years who's told me no. It's addictive. They finished their coffee talking about everything and nothing, discovering that beneath the surface differences, they fit in ways that felt inevitable. When Min Jun walked her to the subway, he didn't try to kiss her, didn't push for more. Just looked at her like she was a miracle and said, Tomorrow? Same time. Tomorrow, Zara agreed. But as she descended into the subway, her phone buzzed with a message from Maya. Girl, I Googled your MJ. You need to call me right now. And Zara had a sinking feeling that her perfect coffee date was about to get very complicated. Maya's apartment in Queens was small and cluttered and felt safer than anywhere Zara had been in months. But the safety shattered the moment Maya opened her laptop. Sit down, Maya said, voice tight. You're not going to like this. The screen showed a news article from 3 years ago. Park crime family heir takes control after brutal gang war. And there was Min Jun, younger but unmistakable, standing beside an older man identified as his father, Chairman Park. No, Zara whispered. Not crime family. He said business, imports, girl, Maya interrupted gently. He is the business. Min Jun Park runs half the organized crime in New York. His family controls everything from the docks to half the politicians in City Hall. He's not dangerous, he's danger. Zara stared at the articles Maya pulled up. Photos of Min Jun at charity galas. References to alleged criminal activities that everyone knew were real. A blurry image of him leaving a courthouse after charges were mysteriously dropped. And worst of all, an engagement announcement from 2 years ago to someone named Elena Kim, daughter of another crime family. He's engaged, Zara said numbly. Was engaged, Maya corrected. She died in a car accident 18 months ago. Some people say it wasn't an accident, that she tried to run from the arrangement and she stopped, seeing Zara's face. I'm sorry. I know you like him, but you need to know what you're getting into. Zara's phone buzzed. Min Jun, dinner tonight? I want to show you something. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should say no, should block his number and forget this insane, almost relationship before it destroyed her. But instead she typed, "We need to talk." The response was immediate. That sounds ominous. Where? Your place, Zara wrote. I need to see the real you. No coffee shops. No neutral ground. Show me your world, MJ, or this ends now. A long pause. Then, address attached. Be there at 7. Owen will pick you up. No, Owen, Zara shot back. I'll take the subway. I find my own way, or I don't come at all. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, okay, but text me when you're close. Please. That please was what decided her. The vulnerability in it. The respect for her boundaries. Zara Thompson was either very brave or very stupid, but she was going to walk into the lion's den by choice. His penthouse in Manhattan was exactly what she'd expected and nothing like it at the same time. Yes, it was luxurious, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city spread out like a kingdom, furniture that probably cost more than her yearly salary, art on the walls that looked museum quality. But it was also lived in. Books everywhere, some in Korean, some in English. A guitar in the corner. Photos on side tables showing a younger Min Jun with a boy who must have been his brother, both of them smiling without the shadows that haunted Min Jun's eyes now. You came, Min Jun said when Owen let her in. He was barefoot, wearing dress pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. Human. Vulnerable. Real. I almost didn't, Zara admitted. Maya showed me who you really are. Min Jun's expression shuddered. And I'm here, Zara said, because I want the truth from you. Not articles. Not rumors. You. Tell me everything, or I walk out that door and never look back. For a long moment, Min Jun just stared at her. Then he nodded. Okay, but sit down. This is going to take a while. So Zara sat on his expensive couch, and Min Jun poured them both wine with shaking hands, and told her everything. About inheriting an empire he never wanted when his brother died. About the violence required to hold power in a world where weakness meant death. About his father's expectations crushing him. About Elena Kim, the woman he'd been engaged to, who he'd never loved but tried to honor because she was trapped just like him. And about the night she'd tried to escape, and how Min Jun had helped her fake her death and disappear to Europe with money and a new identity, breaking the alliance between their families and earning his father's fury. Everyone thinks I killed her, Min Jun said quietly. My father lets them think it because it makes me look ruthless. But the truth is I freed her. And I've been alone ever since because I can't risk anyone else getting caught in this world. Why tell me this? Zara asked, voice shaking. Because you deserve the truth, Min Jun said. And because if you're going to run, I'd rather it be now, when I'll only lose a few days with you instead of, he stopped. Instead of what? Instead of my whole heart, Min Jun finished quietly. Zara's breath caught. We've known each other 3 days. I know, Min Jun said. Which is insane. But Zara, I've been surrounded by people my entire life and been completely alone. You're the first person who's looked at me and seen someone worth knowing. Not using. Not fearing. Just knowing. He moved closer, kneeling in front of where she sat, so they were eye level. I'm not a good man. I've hurt people. I'll probably hurt people again because that's what survival in my world requires. But I swear to you, I will never hurt you. And if you give me a chance, I will spend every day proving that some things are worth more than power. Zara looked into his eyes and saw everything she'd been afraid to hope for. Honesty, vulnerability, the kind of fierce devotion she'd only read about in books. Your father, she said slowly. Will he come after me? Try to remove the complication. Probably, Min-jun admitted. He's already making threats. But Zara, I didn't save Elena just to let my father control who I love. If he comes for you, he'll have to go through me. You said love, Zara whispered. Too soon, Min-jun asked, something almost playful in his dark eyes. Terrifying, Zara admitted. But no, not too soon, because I think I'm falling too. Then she was kissing him, or he was kissing her. Later she wouldn't be able to say who moved first. But suddenly his hands were in her hair, and hers were clutching his shoulders, and the kiss was deep and desperate and perfect. When they broke apart, Min-jun pressed his forehead to hers. Stay tonight, he whispered. Just stay? I'll sleep on the couch. I just want to know you're here. So Zara stayed. They talked until dawn, curled together on his couch, learning each other's scars and dreams and fears. And when she finally fell asleep in his arms, she felt safer than she had in years. But across the city, Chairman Park was making phone calls, calling in favors, arranging meetings. Because his son had defied him once with Elena Kim, he wouldn't allow it to happen twice. The war was coming, and neither Min-jun nor Zara had any idea how bad it was about to get. Zara woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Min-jun sitting across the room, watching her with an expression that made her heart stutter. How long have you been staring at me? She asked, voice rough with sleep. About an hour, Min-jun admitted, no embarrassment in his tone. You're beautiful when you sleep. Peaceful, like the world hasn't tried to break you yet. It has tried, Zara said softly. I just keep fighting back. I know, Min-jun said. That's what makes you extraordinary. He stood, moved toward her, and Zara saw the tension in his shoulders, the worry he was trying to hide. What's wrong? She asked immediately. Min-jun hesitated, then handed her his phone. On the screen was a message from someone labeled Father. Bring the girl to dinner tonight. The Four Seasons. 7 p.m. This isn't a request. Zara's stomach dropped. He knows about me. He's known since the night I sent Owen to get you, Min-jun said grimly. My father doesn't miss anything. He's been waiting, planning, figuring out how to remove you from my life without making me hate him more than I already do. And dinner is his move, Zara said slowly. He'll offer me money to leave. Or threaten me. Or both. Probably both, Min-jun agreed. Which is why you're not going. Yes, I am, Zara said firmly, sitting up. If I don't face him, he'll always have power over us. I need to look him in the eye and let him see I'm not scared. But you should be scared, Min-jun said urgently. Zara, my father is dangerous. He's not like me. He doesn't have lines he won't cross. Neither do I, Zara said. Not when it comes to protecting what's mine. The possessiveness in her voice made Min-jun's eyes darken. Say that again. You're mine, Zara repeated, standing to face him. And I don't let people take what's mine without a fight. Then Min-jun was kissing her, fierce and claiming, and Zara kissed him back just as hard, pouring everything she felt into it. The fear, the determination, the love that was growing too fast to be logical but felt too right to question. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jun cupped her face. If we go to this dinner, there's no going back. My father will see you as a threat. You'll be pulled into my world completely. I'm already in your world, Zara said. The moment I got in Owen's car, I chose this. Now let me finish choosing it. So they went to dinner. The Four Seasons was exactly the kind of place Zara had never belonged. Old money and older power, where the waitstaff moved like ghosts, and every table held someone who shaped the city from shadows. Chairman Park sat in a private dining room, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, radiating the kind of authority that made empires bow. He didn't stand when they entered, just gestured to the chairs across from him and studied Zara like she was a problem to be solved. Miss Thompson, he said in Korean-accented English, you're prettier than your photographs suggest. And you're exactly as intimidating, Zara replied evenly, refusing to be cowed. Good. Intimidation is honest. Chairman Park poured wine for all of them with steady hands. My son has told you about our world, I assume. About what we do, what we are. He's told me enough, Zara said. Then you know that men like us don't marry for love. The chairman continued. We marry for alliances, for power, for the continuation of legacy. My son was promised to the Kim family, an arrangement that would have secured our family's dominance for generations. Elena Kim is alive, Zara said quietly, and she's happier now than she ever was in your arrangement. The chairman's eyes flashed. My son told you about that. He tells me everything, Zara said. That's what people who love each other do. Love. The chairman said the word like it was a disease. Love makes you weak, makes you vulnerable. My son cannot afford either. Your son is the strongest man I've ever met, Zara shot back. And his strength comes from knowing who he is, not from pretending to be what you want him to. Be careful, girl, the chairman said, voice dropping to something dangerous. You're speaking to me about my own son. And you're speaking to me about the man I love, Zara countered. So we're even. Silence fell. Minjun sat beside her, hand finding hers under the table, squeezing gently. Proud, terrified, both. You have spirit, the chairman finally said. I'll give you that. But spirit doesn't pay debts. Spirit doesn't secure alliances. What exactly do you bring to my son's life besides complications? I bring honesty, Zara said. I bring someone who sees him as a person, not a tool. I bring a future where he might actually be happy instead of slowly dying inside like his brother did. The mention of his dead son made the chairman's expression crack, just for a second. You know nothing about my sons. I know enough, Zara said softly. I know Minjun is terrified of becoming you. And I know you loved your oldest son even though your world killed him. Don't make the same mistake twice. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the chairman leaned back, studied them both, and said something that shocked them. You remind me of my wife. Father, Minjun started, but the chairman held up a hand. My wife was strong like you, he said to Zara. She came from nothing, fought for everything. And she told me once that if I let this world turn our sons into weapons, she'd never forgive me. His voice cracked. She died before I could prove her wrong. Or right. Zara saw it then, the grief beneath the power. The father who'd lost his wife and oldest son to the world he'd built. It's not too late, she said gently, to let Minjun choose his own path. His path is set, the chairman said, but there was less certainty in his voice now. Then change it, Zara challenged. You're powerful enough to rewrite the rules. Powerful enough to let your son be happy. The question is, are you brave enough? Another silence. Then the chairman stood. This dinner is over, he said. But Miss Thompson, you've given me something to consider. He looked at his son. I'm not promising anything, but I won't move against her. Yet. It was the closest thing to approval they'd get. As they left the restaurant, Minjun pulled Zara into his arms right there on the Manhattan sidewalk. You're incredible, he breathed. Absolutely incredible. I'm terrified, Zara admitted. But I meant what I said. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. Then I'm the luckiest man alive, Minjun said, and kissed her like she'd just saved his life. Because in a way, she had. But the real test was still coming. 3 months later, Zara stood in Minjun's penthouse wearing one of his shirts and watching the sunrise paint Manhattan gold, thinking about how much had changed since that accidental text message. Her mother was healthy, medical bills paid through mysterious administrative corrections that Minjun swore he had nothing to do with. She'd quit 2 of her 3 jobs because Minjun had quietly bought the building her mom lived in and forgiven all the back rent. She was still working at Meridian, refused to be completely dependent, but now she was also finishing her teaching degree, funded by a scholarship that definitely wasn't coincidental. And she was in love. Stupidly, completely, irrevocably in love with a man who ruled an empire and looked at her like she was his entire world. You're thinking too loud. Minjun's voice came from the bedroom doorway. He was shirtless, hair mussed from sleep, looking at her with that soft expression he reserved only for her. I'm thinking about how this is insane, Zara admitted. 3 months ago, I accidentally texted a stranger. Now I'm living with a crime boss and having dinner with his terrifying father once a week. He likes you, Minjun said, moving behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. Yesterday he asked when I was going to make it official before some other smart man steals her. Your father has a strange way of showing approval, Zara laughed. He offered to have my competition law professor removed when I mentioned my grade was unfair. I talked him out of it, Minjun assured her. Mostly. They stood there wrapped in each other, watching the city wake up, and Zara felt the question hanging between them, the one they'd been dancing around for weeks. I need to tell you something, Minjun said finally, voice nervous in a way she'd never heard. Okay, Zara said carefully. He turned her to face him, and his expression was vulnerable and determined at once. I know it's fast. I know we're still learning each other. But Zara, I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to pretend this is temporary or cautious or anything other than what it is. He reached into his pocket and Zara's breath stopped. I want forever, Minjun said, opening a small velvet box to reveal a ring that was beautiful in its simplicity, a single diamond, elegant and perfect. I want you beside me, not as my girlfriend or my partner, but as my wife. I want to build a life that's ours, not my father's or the Empire's or anyone else's. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're mine and I'm yours. Tears streamed down Zara's face. MJ, you said yes to coffee, Minjun continued, dropping to one knee right there in his living room with Manhattan spread out behind him. You said yes to seeing my world. You said yes to meeting my father. Zara Thompson, will you say yes to forever? For a moment, Zara couldn't speak. This was crazy. They'd known each other 3 months. He was dangerous and powerful and everything she should run from. But he was also kind and vulnerable and looked at her like she hung the stars. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Minjun stood so fast he almost dropped the ring, sliding it onto her finger with shaking hands before kissing her so deeply she forgot how to breathe. When they finally broke apart, he was laughing and crying at the same time. I was so scared you'd say no, he admitted. I had a whole speech prepared about how I'd wait, how I'd prove myself. I love you exactly as you are, Zara interrupted. Right now? No proving necessary. They called his father together, Minjun's hand never leaving hers. She said yes. Minjun told him, voice full of joy. There was a long pause. Then, good. I've already started planning the wedding. The Kim family will be invited. We'll show them what my son chose instead of their arrangement, and they'll see she's worth 10 of their daughter. 3 months, Cathedral of St. John. I'll handle everything. Father, Minjun started. Don't argue with me on this, the chairman interrupted. Let me give you this. Let me throw you a wedding that shows the entire underworld that my son chose love, and I support him. Another crack in the armor. Another piece of the father emerging from beneath the empire. Thank you, Minjun said, voice rough with emotion. After they hung up, Zara looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the life stretching out before them. Are you sure about this? She asked. About marrying into this world? It's going to be dangerous and complicated and, Zara, Minjun interrupted gently. The night you texted me by accident? I'd just finished ignoring the 100th message that day. Business deals, marriage proposals, threats, demands. I was so tired of everyone wanting something from me that I'd gone numb. And then you texted help please and called me sir and asked for nothing except kindness. He cupped her face. You woke me up, reminded me what it felt like to be human, to want something for myself instead of for the empire. So yes, I'm sure. You're the only thing I've ever been sure about. 3 months later, Zara walked down the aisle of the Cathedral of St. John in a dress that made her feel like royalty, toward a man who'd ignored 100 messages but answered hers. The cathedral was packed with Manhattan's most dangerous people, crime families, politicians, business moguls who operated in shadows. But Zara only saw Minjun, standing at the altar with tears streaming down his face, looking at her like she was a miracle. Hi, she whispered when she reached him. Hi, Minjun whispered back. You're beautiful. You're crying, Zara said softly, reaching up to wipe his tears. I'm happy, Minjun said. For the first time in 8 years, I'm completely, perfectly happy. The ceremony was a blend of Korean and American traditions. Chairman Park standing beside his son with visible pride, and when the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Minjun did, long and deep and full of promise. "Mine," he murmured against her lips. "Yours," Zara agreed. "Forever yours." And as they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, toward a future full of danger and love and complications they'd face together, Zara thought about that accidental text message. About calling a stranger sir, and having him turn her entire life upside down. About finding love in the last place she expected. About saying yes to forever with a man who ruled an empire but knelt for her. The reception was lavish, the toasts were heartfelt, and when Minjun pulled her onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. "No regrets," Minjun whispered as they swayed together. "Not a single one," Zara whispered back. "You? Only that I didn't find you sooner," Minjun said. And as the night stretched on, full of laughter and love and the beginning of their forever, neither of them noticed the photographer in the corner capturing every moment, or the article that would run the next day. Park Airwed's Waitress in love match that defied empire. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose love over everything else. And Minjun Park, who'd ignored 100 messages, had answered the one that mattered. The one from a woman who called him sir and changed his life. Their story was just beginning. But that's a tale for another time. If you loved Minjun and Zara's journey from an accidental text to forever love, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another emotional romance story. Drop a comment below telling me which moment made your heart race. Was it the first message, the father's dinner, or the proposal? And let me know what story you want next. Should we explore Owen's secret romance? Or dive into Chairman Park's past? You decide. Thanks for being here, and remember, sometimes the best love stories start with a simple sir. See you in the next one.